Hey everybody, my name is Emily Rondell and I'm with the Community Learning Team at the Toronto and Region Conservation Authority. Now, normally at this time of year, our team and myself, we attend the Colonel Sam Smith Bird Festival. We lead bird hikes and we have a booth with activities, and it's one of our favorite events of the year. This year, we're doing things a little bit differently, and we're contributing to the Friends of Colonel Sam Smith's digital bird festival that they're hosting on Facebook. And as part of that festival today, I'd like to talk to you guys about bird nests and bird nesting. Because I think when we talk about birds, especially at this amazing springtime of year, we often focus on identifying birds and we focus on figuring out who they are and racking up as many different types of bird sightings as we can get. But we forget that birds are just beginning some of the most interesting and complex behaviors that they do all year in terms of bird nesting. So I'm going to share a presentation with you that just goes over some of the basic points about nesting that maybe you didn't realize around the GTA. Okay, so let me just start this off here. So here you can see an amazing little nest as part of the nesting season. What a lot of people don't realize is how many different breeding birds there are in the GTA in the city of Toronto. There really, really are hundreds of them, and it's really rewarding to kind of get out there and see what you can find in terms of bird nesting and breeding behavior. A word of caution, though, just about on that note, is that it's really important to observe birds and their nests respectfully. Make sure that you don't flush sitting birds off of their nests, especially repeatedly. That's really important. And make sure that you don't interfere with them by observing the nests too closely, because that can cause birds to just really be deficient in the care of either their eggs or their young, and it will affect the outcome of their nests overall. But there are lots of ways to observe birds and their nests from a safe and respectful distance and just really enjoy this part of the season. So I'm going to show you here. This is a video that I took on my home. And you can see this is a robin nest that is in the process of being built. A female robin just flew in. She had a mouthful of grass. Now you can see here that this is a female robin. Most bird nests, especially songbird nests, are built pretty much exclusively by the female bird, which in some ways makes sense as well because she's the one that's going to be sitting on that nest primarily once the eggs are laid and the incubation can begin. Each different type of bird has a completely unique type of nest. Each species of bird uses a very particular set of materials. They build it in a very specific shape and size, and they'll also put their nests in very specific places in terms of the habitat, in terms of height, sorts of trees that they like to put their nests in, and things like that. So you can identify which bird made the nest simply from its form and its materials, and that's something that I think is becoming a little bit of a lost art. A lot of people may be familiar with the fact that a robin nest is normally round, normally has grass and mud in it, but they're not thinking about that in terms of all of the other types of nest. You can see here the female is really molding this nest together. You can see that she'll kind of do a bit of a shimmy in the nest from time to time, and that's her really setting up the inside bowl to really match her body shape. You can see she's doing it right now. Just a little, it looks like a little dance in the nest. And that's her just getting it set up so that it's comfortable and safe for her to sit on when she has the eggs in there. It's pretty cool. Now we put this ledge up for this robin specifically. We wanted this bird to use this nest ledge instead of our porch light, where it was a little bit inconvenient and we were bothering the bird all the time as we went in and out of our house. So we were really lucky that we put up what we thought would be an enticing place for a bird to nest. And then lo and behold, the next breeding season, a bird came and they liked what we had to offer. So kind of fun. You can even see this female robin when she turns around a little bit. She even has some mud stuck to her chest right now because she's not quite done building the nest. And as she kind of shimmies around in the mud nest before she lines it with soft grasses, you can see some of it's getting stuck to her. So she's molding it. Okay. Now here's a close-up of the nest itself, just from a different angle from the other side. And yeah, you can really get a sense of the structure of the nest, and you can see how beautiful the artistry of nest building can really be. For robins, which is something that I think a lot of people overlook. Now, unfortunately, you can also see that this robin has woven a strand of plastic, this blue plastic, into her nest in addition to all of the grasses. And we find that, unfortunately, to be the case with a lot of birds that use grass, because I think a lot of fine plastic filaments kind of mimic the feel and shape of grass to them. When nests incorporate a lot of plastic, that can be really, really damaging, and it's something that we don't really like to see, because the plastic can harm nestlings that can snag on it, and in extreme cases, it might be able to strangle them. In this case, though, there's just one piece of plastic. It's relatively safe, but it does kind of explain or demonstrate this larger problem that we have, where we want birds to use natural materials, and we want to make sure that, you know, plastic pollution and litter aren't prevalent, so that they won't include these things in their nests. Now, at the time, a few days after the nest building video that I showed you, this is what was inside the nest. These are 3 beautiful robin eggs. Now, this is not what we call a full clutch of eggs. The female robin should be laying around 1 more egg than this. A regular robin clutch size is 4. But not all of these eggs get laid at once. Laying eggs is incredibly difficult for birds to do. It takes up a ton of energy for female birds to do this. And so because of that constraint, most birds, especially songbirds, will lay 1 egg per day maximum, up until the maximum amount that they're going to deposit into that nest, in this case 4. And sometimes if, you know, food isn't available or things are particularly cold, they may actually skip a day or 2 in the nesting or in the laying process. Now, female birds won't start to incubate their eggs until they have a full clutch. And I think a lot of people at this time of year may find a nest nearby and nearby their home or in their neighborhood, see that there are eggs in it and not see a parent bird sitting on that nest, and assume maybe that that nest has been abandoned. But that is actually not the case at all, because until there's a full clutch, a female bird will not incubate those eggs. And there's a very specific reason for that. It's because eggs, the embryos inside, won't start developing until that incubation with a female or parent bird's body heat happens. So by delaying incubation until all the eggs are laid, she can ensure that the eggs all hatch in and around the same day, which is important if you're a bird, because you don't want to have a variety of young at different ages out of the egg. Some may leave the nest earlier and need to kind of be cared for outside of the nest, while others might still need to be cared for in the nest. It would be a lot of chaos and a lot more work. It would also extend the amount of time that there were eggs or nestlings in the nest itself over time by stretching it out, which is not a good thing for a bird, because that's when these baby birds or these young are most vulnerable. So she synchronizes everything to make sure that things are as structured and synchronous as they can possibly be. Now, this is just another example of a common type of nest you might see in Toronto, much smaller than the robin nest. This is a vireo nest. Now, our most common vireos are probably red-eyed vireos and warbling vireos here in the GTA, and they don't build a cup nest that they put on a ledge or anything like that. They hang a little nest from twigs or small branches that they find. So if you find this kind of hanging nest with a hanging bottom that looks a little like this, it's probably, well, it is a vireo nest if it's small. And you can see here that there are spider webs and lichens and all sorts of cool materials woven into this nest as well. This is another nest which is fairly common, especially in and around Colonel Sam Smith Park and places on the waterfront. This is an eastern kingbird nest, and unfortunately in this case you can see what is a dangerous amount of plastic in the nest. However, also check out how beautiful those eggs are. Another way that you can identify birds and their nest is by looking at the coloration of the eggs and their size and shape. Each type of bird has a unique nest, and each type of bird lays a unique type of an egg as well. Now, of course, not all birds build cup nests. a lot of birds are cavity nesters. And we often think of things like owls and woodpeckers nesting in cavities. We don't often think of songbirds or flycatchers and things like that, but there's a lot of other types of bird that nest in holes in trees or cavities. This is a great crested flycatcher and its nest. In this case, the great crested flycatcher nest at left was built inside a nest box, which was put somewhere for that purpose, or maybe to entice a woodpecker, but they got a flycatcher, which is pretty cool. I think these are the most beautiful eggs that we have in this part of Ontario. I think they just are gorgeous, and it's almost like a maroon streaking. What's better than that? But another thing I want to point out is what this nest is lined with. Great crested flycatchers have this amazing adaptation where they line their nests with snake skin. Really cool, naturally shed snake skin. Now, that can be hard to find, especially in more degraded habitats. So this particular bird seems to not have used snakeskin, but may have used cellophane or plastic. Again, not ideal, maybe less breathable, maybe more prone to, changing the temperature and humidity in the nest and things like that. So we want to see nests that use that use snakeskin. This one used cellophane. Hopefully it didn't harm the nest too much. But snakeskin, what a cool nest lining. Of course, a couple of birds of prey also are cavity nesters, and in this case, this is an American kestrel on its little cavity nest in a tree. American kestrels are smallest falcons. I think a lot of people would imagine a kestrel nest who don't know about them already and wouldn't imagine a little cavity, but pretty cool. And you can see how smooshed in the little kestrel is in that cavity as well. Beautiful eggs also. Now, again, there are some birds that don't really even build nests at all. This is a piping plover and its beach nest, and you can see it's barely a nest. It's just a little depression to keep the eggs from rolling around. And piping plovers are, this amazing success story locally in Ontario, whereby the fact that they nested on these incredibly popular beaches that people love to visit meant that they were their numbers were declining incredibly rapidly. Most recently, though, we've had lots of programs that have encouraged piping plovers to nest on our beaches, all sorts of education programs to encourage human beings to share the beaches they like to visit respectfully with piping plovers. And in Toronto, on the Toronto Islands in the last few years, we have had piping plovers returning and nesting when possible for the first time in 85 years, which has been a really big success. And there's been all sorts of amazing volunteers who have dedicated a lot of energy and time into safeguarding those nests and educating people nearby about how vulnerable these adorable birds are during the nesting season. And if you think an adult piping plover is cute, the babies are even more adorable. Now, piping plover nests are not very complicated, but they've got nothing on the common nighthawk whose nest this is. They don't even build a nest at all, not even a depression. They just lay their eggs on the ground, just like this. In Toronto, nighthawks will nest mostly on flat gravel rooftops, maybe on railway tracks, but yeah, these eggs are really highly camouflaged and they can be incredibly hard to see, but they're still there. And it's really amazing that you can observe nighthawks, courting and participating in their nesting behavior, even if you can't really see the nests themselves in this case. Now, one last thing, this is a yellow warbler nest with a kind of interesting twist on it. You can see the beautiful nest. I love the little thistledown lining inside, but one of those eggs is not like the other eggs. That's because one of the eggs in this yellow warbler nest was not laid by a yellow warbler. It was in fact laid by a brown-headed cowbird, which is a type of bird that's been increasing pretty quickly in this area that doesn't make its own nests and doesn't care for its own young. Brown-headed cowbirds sneak their eggs into other birds' nests and then they leave, and then those birds care for their young for them. So this could be considered kind of a good thing or a bad thing. Brown-headed cowbirds are not really considered totally native to this area. They're more from the prairie areas where they used to follow herds of bison around the plains, which is why they were never able to stay anywhere long enough to build their own nest. So it's a really interesting behavior, but we are finding that these baby cowbirds do tend to trample the eggs of the other birds that they were deposited in. And so often cowbirds they hatch first and then they kind of trample around and crush the rest of the eggs in the nest, which means that there aren't actually any yellow warblers born out of this nest this year maybe, but just a cowbird. So that can cause declines in native birds. But yeah, just a really interesting kind of ecological situation, and just goes to show how much there is to observe in the nesting season and breeding season itself. So I hope you're able to get out and look for some nests. I hope you're able to do it respectfully without bothering the birds, but do try and enjoy this amazing time of year for, for birds. And this is such an important part of their biology that happens at this incredible time. Good luck, and I hope that you really enjoy the nesting season. Thank you.